now comes the time to seal everything up. So we're actually going to be gluing this top plate in place, like so. Again, before we do that, you want to make sure that everything's still sliding nice and easy. That's good. And we're going to coat the top with graphite. So just take your pencil and apply the graphite. So that's ready to go. Still fits nice and smooth. And we're going to apply glue. And again, the key here is applying glue only where away from the moving parts. So only at the ends. And the instructions do a good job of showing exactly where this glue should be applied. Make sure we got enough glue on here. And maybe a little bit more here. And now the moment of truth. That gets pressed on. And again, make sure that all the seams are nice and tight. Now, everything's still sliding nice and easy. We should be good. So now we can start, while the glue is setting up there, we can start adding the adapter plates. So there's a series of parts here that we're going to add, one after the other. It starts with these two little locator pieces. Get them out of the carrier here. So these adapters allow you to connect various different air supplies to the engine to have it run. So the holes here in the adapter plate, they fit a standard air nipple for an air compressor if you've got that, or there's a number of inflators that fit that size hole as well. The hole in this plate fits an air mattress inflator, as does this one, or you can put a vacuum cleaner with the hose over top of that circle and it'll run in reverse. So there's a number of different ways to get the engine to run, and the adapter allows you to choose whatever you've got handy. So we're going to start by just plugging these pieces into the front. There's no need to glue them, they're going to be captured in place. They just allow you to locate the other parts. Then this piece goes over front. It's AD, or AC, pardon me. And again, we're just going to apply glue. And you want to make a seal as much as possible around the parts without having too much glue that it gets inside the engine. So that just slides right over top of there, and that's located in now. And now the AD part is going to snap right on top of that. So we apply glue. and drop that right on top. And if any comes out the side, you can just wipe that up. There we go. Then there's the cover plate. It just centers on top of the rest. Get enough glue on there. And you're just basically aligning the edge of this with the pieces below. So it's aligned. And then the vacuum adapter ring just goes on the top. And if you get everything centered, it just looks nice. All right, those pieces are done. And you can, if there's a little bit inside there, you can just use the tool to smooth out any glue overruns that you had. Okay. So the next step, we're going to use wood glue, and we're going to seal all the places where air can get out of the engine, through all the gaps where we didn't glue on the inside of the engine. So there's a number of different seams that we're going to do here. And there's a couple of tricks that you can use to make a nice, neat job. So let's move on to that next. So now we're going to go ahead and seal up as many of the spots where air can escape as possible. So all the places where there's tabs and holes, but we didn't apply glue because we wanted to keep the glue away from the inside moving parts. Now we can apply glue on the outside. So I'm going to use wood glue for this, and I'm going to use our handy spacer tool as well. It's going to come in handy once again. And I'm just going to put a little dab of glue on a scrap piece of wood and just grab a little bit and just dab it into these parts, and then afterwards we'll sand down any of the extra glue. But for now we just want to get the glue onto all the seams and all the notches. So we're just going to work our way around. And this seam. And I'm just going to move that away and apply some to this seam. We can scrape off any excess. Scraping off the excess will just make the job of sanding afterwards a little bit easier. The other option for this, if you don't want to use glue, you can actually use wood filler. It works as well too, and wood filler actually sands a little bit nicer. If you're going to paint the kit afterwards, you may want to use the filler. And they're available at craft stores. So again, you can see I'm just filling in creating a fillet there. We're just going to work our way around. A little bit there. And then on the back. And again, what we're doing here is ensuring that all the air that goes into the engine is used, or as much as possible is used to push the piston back and forth rather than running out of all these holes that we've made. Looks like I could use a little bit more glue. And just working our way around here. There we go. And again, scrape any excess off. Makes the sanding job later a little bit easier. And make sure you're keeping the glue away from any of the moving parts. So don't forget about the bottom. Add a little bit more glue here. And apply glue on this spot. And this spot. And what I can probably do here is actually just use the bottle, put a bit of glue in the seam, and then using my trusty finger, just move that glue around. Got a pretty good fillet all the way around, actually. Can move a little bit back into that corner there. And all of our seams are now filled. Next step is to attach the piston body to the base. So we'll first do a dry fit with no glue and just make sure that everything is fitting well. So snap that in place. If you need to make any adjustments or do any sanding, you can do so now. In this case, it looks pretty good. So before we glue it in place, we want to connect the piston rod and the sliding valve to their connecting rods here. So I'll start with the main crank and then attach the other side. So if I just slide this out, I can just press that through. All right, so those are connected. Just make sure that everything's in place. And now I can go ahead and I can apply glue to the base here and glue it in place. So I'm going to go back to my crazy glue and I'm going to make sure I get a good joint at the base. We don't want it shaking loose while the engine's running. So all the way around the base. And this is nowhere near any moving parts. Nothing's going to get stuck or glued together here. So use enough glue to make sure it sticks. So there we have it. The glue's applied, and I'm just going to press that down in place. There we have it. Everything looks like it's running okay. So now we can finish up those cranks. So we're going to grab a couple more retaining rings. Just press that through. And press this through. Whoop. Apply graphite. You're getting the gist of it by now, because it's going to be pressed on to the two pins for the main crank, the piston pin and the valve pin. There's one. There's two. So when you're pressing these on, just make sure that you're supporting the back here. You don't want to break any parts off. So support the back of the piece that you're pushing it onto and just slide it in place. Like so. Now we'll do the other side. And put it in place. Okay, that one's actually kind of tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my sandpaper, sand the pin a little bit, make it a little bit easier to get on. And try that again. Oh, that works much better. And we're going to press it on again. You want there to be a little bit of space on each side. And if anything's a little bit tight, you can make those adjustments now. That looks pretty good. So now next step, we're just going to trim back these pins. So we can use a razor saw for that. That's one. And we'll do the other one here. Kind of tricky to get at it, but done. So again, a little bit of sandpaper, just tidy up the end here, sand it flush. You can actually use a sanding block. I might go with, I left it a little bit long there, so I'm going to use a heavier grade sandpaper. And looks good. And do the same on this side. So everything's trimmed up, and it looks like it's running nice and smooth. So we still have a little bit of sanding here to do our finishing, but we can actually test and see if the engine runs now. So I have just an air mattress filler here, I think it was 20 bucks on eBay or Amazon. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect the hose here into the engine, turn it on, and away it goes. We've got it all assembled, it's working. The last step is to glue the base on, the pedestal. So it's part Y. And you go marked side down. And we're just going to apply a little bit of glue around the edge here. And just drop that in place. Try and get it centered as well as possible. And again, you can just use your handy tool here to get rid of any excess glue. So with that, I'm going to take my 220 grit sandpaper, clean up the glue that was left, and we're complete.